Eric Donovan is joining us on Skype. Good morning to you, Eric.
Morning, lads.
How are you doing?
Oh, good.
So, what's your recollection of your first exposure to the high performance unit?
I think I was 17 when I went onto the team initially, and I wasn't there for the first practical training session that Zoranti had delivered. But I remember Roy Sheen actually saying, Roy Sheen rang me up afterwards and said, or maybe I rang him and I said, well, what's the new coach like? And Roy said, oh, Eric, he's unbelievable. And guess what he said? I said, well, he has a photograph of you. I said, what? Yeah, he has a photograph of you from the European Schoolboy Championships. One of his young boxers from Georgia was in a picture with me, and he gave it to Zora on his travels. I had the Irish tracksuit on me and said, there, best of luck and take this with you. So, yeah, he arrived in Ireland with a photograph of me. So that was kind of a bit weird. But when I got to meet him and got to train with him and stuff like that, he was class. But the high performance setup, Gary Keegan, I remember him saying to me, I always felt I was just a boxer, you know what I mean? And boxing was kind of like a hobby. But Gary Keegan said to me, you're now a professional athlete. It was the first time I ever heard that, and I really liked his vision. I liked his ideas. I loved his whole approach to what he wanted to do, what he wanted to achieve, and you just would love to work with him and work for him. And Gary was a great man. He was great at putting people in places and trusting them to do their job, and then he was in the background keeping the whole ship going and directing it in the right way. So yeah, it was brilliant. It was amazing to be a part of it. Really, really loved it.
And you'd kind of seen the transition from before that, when that didn't exist. So was it a culture shock for everybody? Like you clearly really wanted it and were ready for it, but were there a bunch of other people around you who were like, nah, this is all nonsense?
Yeah, there were definitely older guys who had been, used to the status quo and doing things their way, and didn't agree with it. And there, for the first couple of years, there was some resistance from the boxers themselves. I know there was a lot of external resistance from like the board or whoever, the IABA or the club coaches and stuff, as you touched on in the documentary. But certainly there was two or three guys, especially who didn't go along or didn't toe the line. But as Eric said, Gary was that type of man, and for me as a young boxer, he was inspiring. And like Eric said, you wanted to work for him. You push yourself. You wanted to. With all those guys, with Billy and Zoe, being a young boxer like that, being impressionable, when you're doing a session, you want to impress them. So you're working harder than everybody else. You're making sure that you're the first in the runs or the sprints, and the first in the back. Doing everything and trying to be at the top of the line, just so you can impress them. And that's what they inspired. And we all improved from that. But yeah, certainly there were guys who didn't see that vision the same way. Were all and thought like, I've done so well at this point. Why should I change now?
Yeah. Eric, you mentioned giving Roy Sheehan a call. For people who don't know, you guys are literally neighbours. You're kind of like living a couple of houses apart at this point in your life. So you guys are clearly driven each other on. But the impact of having a team of people where you're all exposed to each other and all kind of in different weights, but actually driving the standards collectively, that's the other bit of magic in all this, is that, it's great to have a proper coaching system, but unless the players, in this case the boxers, actually drive each other on and set the standards, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I agree. And we're trying to create a culture, because the old culture, unfortunately, and probably for the first year or two even of the high performance, like when you went away with the Irish team, the first thing you put in your bag was your shoes, your jeans and your shirt. And you're going away on international trips. And I kind of came into that culture, and I kind of thought, well, this is great, sure. Like, this was the bar that was being raised by the people before, and Gary Keegan and Billy and Zora, the whole high performance staff wanted to try and get away from that. And I think Andy touched on it there. You could see that the older guys that were used to the old system, they didn't really take to it too well. Didn't take to the philosophies, I suppose, of the high performance unit. but no, you need everybody to tap into it. Like, this is something that could have really backfired. It could have backfired from the very start. I mean, like, we were living upstairs in the gym initially for the first couple of months before we even, I suppose, sourced funding for hotels or apartments or whatever. We were living upstairs on mattresses. So
well, there was a time when, like, there was 24 of us sleeping in one room on the ground, you know, and that was St. Stephen's night, 2003.
Right.
Yeah. So 2004 maybe, St. Stephen's night, like so, and we were told to be there. You know, we had to be there, or else you're not going to make the squad. And I was there. I didn't like it. I was there, you know, but there were some guys who weren't there, and they suffered. Like, not that they suffered, but they paid the price for it. You know?
It's a psychological test. Can you?
Yeah, it was,
are you willing to commit to this thing? And if you are, then anything is possible.
And without any like, you'll never get anywhere without. You have to, somewhere along the line you're going to have to sacrifice, you know. But that was it, and I think that was a little test for the people who wanted to be there, you know.
The point that Eric makes about you guys packing your going out clothes in your bag before the training gear, like, you know, this happens in a lot of sports. Like, there's definitely there's a famous story about it.
Just the way it was, you know. It's just the way it was, wasn't it, Eric? Like, you just. I hate that phrase now, but like, when you lose on the booze and just, you know, oh sure, we're in Greece anyway, you know, we've bought.
I think the psyche as well, though, wasn't it?
You would have went out and boxed your best, you know, and done everything up to that point. It wouldn't have been like you were going, but so you were here now. You got 3 days left. You're in a sunny place with a nice. You've never been there before.
Yeah.
So go out and enjoy it. That would be.
I think it's because most of the tournaments that we previously went to in the past would go on for 10 days or maybe 2 weeks. And the Irish team would be gone out with by day 5 or day 6. So you're left with a week or 10 days. So I think people were already preparing for that in their mind, you know.
Well, one of the big was, I guess, one of the most things they came up against was, once you lost, the idea that you had to go on and train, you know, like, because usually, like I said, you'd lose your fight, and then you'd have 3 or 4 days just, you know, lounging around, having a look at the city or wherever you were. But no, with Gary and Billy, it was no, okay, you were still up at 7 a.m. in the morning, you're still doing your morning session, and then in the afternoon you're going to join the team and do your afternoon session.
Yeah,
you know, and
this is a great chance for us to actually get you to be a better fighter. And,
yeah,
you know,
and even at some stage they'd set up sparring or technical sessions with other countries, so they were using every opportunity, you know, and. I thought it was great, but they did come up against a lot of resistance from the older guys. And, but that's, I guess, going into any system and trying to change it, it's always going to be that sort of thing with people, you know. Yeah,
but you started to see results pretty quickly, Eric, right? Like, you guys all started to win stuff.
Yeah, like I suppose the high performance was initially up and running by 2003. First competition I had was the Four Nations Seniors. But I wasn't the senior champion of Ireland. The Four Nations Seniors is gone now, actually. But it was a great tournament. And the guys in my weight in Ireland, they couldn't make the weight category. So they sent me for experience. And I went along and won the Four Seniors, or the Four Nations. And so that put me onto funding. So that was a great thing for me at that age. So that enabled me to go up to Dublin and not feel resentful about it, to be able to go up and stay there for the 4 or 5 days every week. And from then on, I pushed, you know, and really, really enjoyed it, because even in terms of the technical breakdowns of the training sessions, and I know Zor would have his English would be very poor, but his technical demonstrations would simplify everything for you. And it would make so much sense, and he could turn southpaw or orthodox and give that demonstration so effective. And I loved working with him, and I worked closely with Billy as well, but more so Zor, because I was a southpaw, and I just liked what Zor could do for a southpaw. And you know, most, like, the team was kind of split 50-50. Billy would work with a lot of the orthodox fighters. They'd all work with all fighters, but it was kind of, Billy was doing pads and Zor was doing pads. I would veer towards Zor. And, you know, you might have other guys like Jamie Moore or Andy Murray or that would have veered off towards Billy, you know, because they would have been strong orthodox fighters. But But I just loved the conditions. I felt myself improving there every week because I kind of feel at club level we're brought to a level. Like Zor taught me how to throw a left hook. He taught me how to throw a left hook, and I was 17 years of age and never threw a left hook because I didn't need to throw a left hook. I won everything all the way up without having to throw a left hook. I didn't even know I could throw a left hook. It's kind of crazy because I lead with my right hand, and it was always like right, left, right hook, right, left, right hook. But Zor taught me how to throw this one, and I kind of felt like that was a dangerous punch to throw, where I would leave myself very vulnerable. Yeah, where I'd leave myself so vulnerable. But when Zor taught me how to throw that punch, he said that can be a game changer for you, and he was dead right, because that's what won me my first senior title against another southpaw, and it was the punch to beat another southpaw. I won my first senior title, and the club's first title since its foundation in 45 years previous. You know,
it's interesting, right, hearing the technical genius of Zor, because there's a load of bullshit around funding in 2004 and 2008 at the Olympic Games, where the accreditation is an issue and they don't have the right supports. Zor is part of the team in 2004, but he's not in your corner in the Olympics. And when you get off the plane after the Olympics having lost, you're like, what happened? And Zor immediately can diagnose, to the point where you think if he was in the corner, maybe things are different in your Olympic career, right?
Certainly, yeah. If I would have had, I would have definitely done better, you know, in the Olympics. I probably would have won that fight that I lost. Not having Zor in the corner definitely affected me. But he just gave us the technique and the knowledge that we were missing. You know, as Kenny said in the clip, we were always known for our heart. We would always go and fight hard, and we would always push the best nations right to the edge. We'd never win, you know. More often than not, we would just come up short, and we were always lacking the technical know-how of how, because amateur boxing at that stage anyway, when it was the computer scoring, was very technical, and it was all around feints and outmaneuvering your opponent and then making him pay. You know, like it's all about feinting, letting them punch and then countering them. And Zor just gave us the techniques and the know-how of how to do that, and he educated, like Billy very much learned from Zor, you know. And I think even if you see Billy, and even if you see Pete Taylor and Mike Collins' father and Eddie Bulger, anything they do that's suitable to amateur boxing now, not that they don't know their own, there's a lot from what you see Zor do, you know. And he's like, you can see his signature on a lot of the good fighters now that even now, like when I see Carl Frampton box and I see stuff that he does, and I see that, I can see Zor, like his fingerprints all over him. I mean, I can see that's Zor's move right there that he's doing. And like he definitely has changed. I think he's had as for a single man, he's had the biggest impact on Irish boxing ever.
What did he do? What did he see in 2004 in the Olympics that would have got you out of the trouble?
Well, I was fighting a guy who, Hassan Ndam from Cameroon, who up to that point had been an aggressive fighter, and I was strictly a counterpuncher. So I was expecting this guy to come at me and I'd counterpunch him, move around, and I would outpoint him, and that was the way it was. And when we got out there, he had completely switched his tactics and went on the back foot and was moving around me. Not coming forward, not throwing any punches, waiting for me to punch. And as a counterpuncher, that's kind of the best tactic you can do. And I was chasing him then, and he got up in the scores, and I couldn't really claw it back. And as I said in the documentary, I was at a loss to how, at that stage, you know, I was still quite young, and I just didn't know how I could have counteracted that, and what I could have done to win the fight. And thinking about it after, you know, the 10 days after the Olympics in the village, and just going over and over, always in the back of your mind. Then get off the plane, there's a group of people there, you know, to welcome you home and say well done. And I said, Zor, what happened in the fight? Pull me to one side. What happened in the fight? What did you think? What could I have done? And he just simply said one thing: show punch. And that's, as I said in the documentary, it doesn't really make sense. It's not a technical term, but it was the language, this kind of language that we had developed between ourselves that didn't really make sense, but I knew exactly what he meant.
It was our language, Andy.
Yeah,
Language.
Zo has behind, like Zo has 3 or 4 phrases behind, which was a check hook. You know, show punch was a feint, and different.
Two eyes was twice.
But we knew we had you know, this kind of forehand speech that we'd created amongst ourselves, and when he told me that show punch, it just rung true, and I knew had I heard that during the fight, I would have won.
Yeah, like when Andy's saying that about Zor having the biggest single impact, it does seem as if there was a kind of very careful ecosystem in place as well, that like you needed Gary Keegan to come in and establish the framework, you needed Billy to kind of bring everybody along, and then you needed Zor to make sure that the technical expertise was injected into it. So it's kind of like you know, the 3 leaves of the clover or whatever it is that St. Patrick used.
Look, it was even within the system. I think they realised, like, so like the first year the high performance was inaugurated, we went to Finland, was the first senior competition. We all did well. We went to the 4 nations, we all did well. We were the leading nation in both of those. We went to another multi-nations, we did well, and then we built up to the World Championships in Bangkok. But they didn't send Zor as the main coach. Zor didn't go. Zor travelled with the junior squad to the World Juniors. He wasn't sent. Like, they thought, okay, to me, my reading of the situation is that, we can use this guy, get all his wealth, and we'll send Billy and with the coach were Billy and Cathal O'Grady and Gary, and none of us medalled at the like Kennedy got the last 8, I got to the last 16, and all the other boxers lost in the first fight in Bangkok. And I think there was a realization then that, like, look, we're going to have to bring this guy with us, because Zor doesn't just bring the technical side, he also has those relationships with the other nations. In terms of the Eastern European countries, he's very well respected around the world, you know, and I'm sure it's been well publicised now. But like, whenever there's a chance to poach him by other countries, they're all vying for him.
Yeah.
You know, they're all vying for his services. So he's very well respected. He has great relationships with the other countries in terms of the officials, and also what he can bring in terms of the fights, from fight to fight, the technical breakdown of it, and analysing an opponent and how to. Your strategy and how you should negotiate the fight.
Yeah. Eric, there was a couple of specific things I wanted to ask you about. The 2004 Olympic qualifiers, was that in Azerbaijan?
Yeah, it was. You're going back to it's kind of like following on from the documentary there the other night. Like, I suppose just watching that, like, is just, it make you feel sad that this is happening to your sport, because it highlights your sport in a very negative light, but it's something that we all knew for many of years and experienced, but it's never really came to public knowledge or the way it was in the documentary anyways. But yeah, I suppose my Olympic qualifiers, Andy was after qualifying for Athens Olympic Games. He was the only one on the team to qualify at that time, so the rest of us went to our final qualifier hoping to join him on the plane. This time they were splitting the weights in half, so half of the weight categories had a qualifier in somewhere around, I think it was Western Europe, and the other half of the weight categories were in Eastern Europe and Azerbaijan. So I'm trying to make bantamweight, which is 8.5 stone, and I'm absolutely killed at the weight. I really am. I'm drained out, and I'm saying to myself, I'm never making this weight again, ever. But I come down to the scales, the official weigh in the morning. I'm 0.5 over the weight, and I'm after training all the night before. Zor tells me okay, let's get the gear on you again and train. So I trained, came back to the scales, and I think I barely lost it, but it was kind of flashing on the scales, so they wouldn't allow it. There was 54.05, so me and Zor, we had to go for a walk. Zor hasn't got great English or anything at this stage, but he's going for a walk and he's trying to demonstrate for me to keep spitting, and hopefully finally make the weight. So we're walking down. He's trying to tell me to force out pee-pee as well. He's going, need to go pee-pee, you know. So we're walking down the street, and I turned to Zor and said, I think I need to go now. And there's a public toilet right side road. There was this lady outside it. She was like, I don't know if she was a security guard, but she was minding the toilets anyway. It cost 10 pence to go to the toilet. We had no money. Zor not had that. And so Zor was trying to explain to her that I really needed to go. But he convinced her to get me in. Anyway, that's just the build up for the story. And then I drew the Georgian. In my first fight, and it was 4 2-minute rounds at that time. I had a great engine, always had. Really, really super engine, really super fit. First round, I come back, I'm about 12 points down, and I cannot understand how I'm 12 points down. Like, it was literally a 50-50 round. So in the corner, they just said, look, just keep going. This guy's looking tired. So go out in the second round, and I'm, again, foot to the gas and just bulldozing through him, trying to get back, because you panic a little bit as well. I brought back to about 6 points. I think it was 6 points down, and then after the third round, brought back to 3 points. And in the last round, I nearly had this guy stopped, but the bell goes and I lose by a point, and I'm absolutely devastated. I think it's a robbery, but nobody really cares. You're kind of used to it at this stage, and nobody's saying anything. A few of my friends, teammates, the coaches said, that's a disgrace. I think you won that fight. So obviously I'm eating all around me now. That's how I'm consoling myself, because I'm heartbroken. Obviously the Olympics is over, but very quickly, because my body's like a sponge, I go up like a balloon, I think I'm about 59 kilos. And the Scottish official came over to the Irish team manager, who was the late Martin Power from St. Saviour's Boxing Club in Dublin. I said, I'm really sorry about your boxer earlier on, but like he said, that bell in the last round was rang 20 seconds short.
What?
Yeah. So they put in a complaint and whatever, protest, whatever it is, and they came back to me late that night, that evening, and they said the conclusion is, or result is, that I have to fight him again tomorrow. So I'm 59 kilos now. How would I even, make the weight category tomorrow? So, anyways, I couldn't do it. It was impossible. We had to let it go. And then the boxer who got the decision against me, the Georgian boxer, he pulls out of his next fight against an Azerbaijan. So he doesn't even go and fight. And the Azerbaijani goes straight on to, I think he just has one fight then and qualifies for the Olympics. So, yeah. Do you know, like, we kind of accepted that. It was the norm. So you'd no point coming home and talking to people about that, because you kind of feel, people, they are making excuses again. We've seen this with our own two eyes time and time again, like.
Yeah, I mean, you've no choice but to accept it, because that's the culture of the sport at that stage. Like, even the computer scoring massively improved things, and then the decision to get rid of the computer scoring was just like, this is corrupt.
Well, but even with the computer scoring was always, you could easily manipulate it any way you wanted. It's just a matter of just pressing the button repeatedly, and there's no accountability. That's it. That's the way. And there's no coincidence that, like, these are the European Olympic qualifiers, and they're held in off the wall places like, some secondary city in Azerbaijan, or like before the Olympics in 2016, there was a qualifier in Venezuela, and it just happened that Venezuela had made a huge donation to the IABA and the Olympic Committee. So these things, then you don't have to be like Sherlock Holmes to deduct what's going on, and it's whoever has the power at any given stage. Whoever's the host country, or whoever has the next Olympics. Whoever is the host country of the Olympics, those boxers will get favourable qualifications, and whoever is, the head of the European amateur boxing or the world boxing, those countries will get it. When me and Eric were amateurs, the head was a Turkish guy of the European boxing named Daganelli, and to beat a Turkish boxer, you really had to knock him out. That was the only way you were going to get into the decision. I fought a guy in 2001, this guy called Seda Öztürk, and he was the world champion, I'm a junior champion, but he, again, he was there by, by the grace of the boxing corrupt gods or whatever. But he beat me 15 points to 1. And at those days, it was 15-point rule. So if any boxer got 15 points ahead, you were stopped.
Yeah.
And it was called outscored.
Yeah. So he won the fight, but there was maybe 3 points in it, it was the first day of the tournament. We arrived in Sarajevo that night, and I boxed the next morning in the early session at 11 a.m. Coincidentally, Daganelli is ousted as the president of Europe, and I fight him 2 years later, and I stop him on the 20-point rule. So like, that's. Now I didn't improve that much, and he didn't. He didn't. Yeah, not that I improved, and he went so badly down. But there was just a fair scoring, and it's kind of it's an open secret.
Yeah, Eric, you had another story that you told us in St. Michael's in Athy that time when we were down filming about being a schoolboy in European qualifiers.
Yeah, that's like as Andy was saying, Daganelli, the Turkish delegate, he was the head official at that time over all referees and judges. So I'm the captain of the Irish cadet team. We go to the European schoolboys in Liverpool, 8-man team or something. So I'm boxing away. I beat the German, beat the Georgian, and then I get to the semi-final and I'm boxing the Turk. It's 4-4 after the first round. This fight is a 3-round fight. So it's 4-4 after the first, 8-8 after the second. And I don't know why I'm not a mile ahead. You get the scores after each round. And in the last round, I ran out straight away. First punch I hit him with was a standing count. And really, really hurt him. Ref gives him a count. And first thing you do when you have a guy wounded is you attack. So after the count, I attacked him again. And referee goes, stop. And gives me a count. And it's just to give him his 20 seconds instead of 8-second count. So it was ridiculous because I didn't deserve a count. I probably had a chance to put him away. Anyway, I lost the fight 13-12. Lost it by a point. And when I get out of the ring, I'm crying, I'm inconsolable, and some guy comes over to me, big suit, Eastern European. I think he's Russian, I'm not sure. And he says, he sits me down beside him and he goes, result, no good, no good. And he opens this briefcase and just takes out a wad of cash and just hands me back on $300 Russian dollars or something like that. I thought it was Monopoly money anyway, but I was happy when I got about 300 punt for it when I got home. So. Yeah, did. Give me a little bit of a lift.
Why was he giving it to you? What was so it was a kind of compensation?
I honestly think he felt sorry for me. I really think it was more like he was probably heartbroken for me to see get ripped off, and thought might give me some sort of a lift or consolation or whatever, just give me a few bob, just as a nice gesture.
Were you still in your gear? Like it's immediately after the fight?
Yeah.
You're coming out like a minute after.
The team manager took the money off me straight away, and he just took it off me. And then Dominic O'Rourke was over there because he was my club coach, and he came over to watch. He said, "What did that guy give you?" And I said, "He gave me, I think he gave me money." And where is it? Well, the team manager took it off me, so Tom had to go and get the money off the team manager, and goes like, "What you take the money off him for?" He goes, "I didn't want to see him taking money. He's an amateur boxer. He shouldn't be taking money." I said, "Tom says that was just like it's not a, it's not yeah. I can understand his, his perception on it or his perspective, but Tom was just like, give back the money."
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I said, it's an open secret, and like I was listening to Eric there, and I was just remembering, like when you got the draw, you go to a competition and you turn up, you're in great shape, and you go to the weigh-in on the first day, everyone weighs in at the same time, and then you go home, you have your breakfast, and then the coaches go off and there's the draw, and you find out who you're going to fight, and it was always like, who did you get, who you fighting, and then if you heard like you're fighting the Turk, you'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
If you heard you fighting the Russian or the Turk, you're kind of like, it was like that gallows, like, he's gone. You like, but this time tomorrow you're gonna be, eating what you want. Or like, it was just like, it was like that gallows humor. You're just like,
yeah.
Okay. And you want to say, like, you'll be all right. You're good. You'll get him. It was like, it wasn't like, just more or less saying you're done for. But like, if you're Russian, you were getting beat because they were just so good, and if you were the Turk, if it was Turkey, you weren't getting the decision,
Yeah.
It was just so funny.
Against that backdrop, Eric, it was easy enough for us as a country to believe that we failed in Rio because the whole thing was corrupt. But it turned out that like Rio was actually just a massive confluence of corruption over here, mismanagement on our part, and then some of the fighters maybe being a little bit past their peak.
Yeah, I like past their peak. I'm not too sure, really. I just think circumstances do dictate, and there was probably a lot of, I suppose, internal issues before they went out. I mean, the Billy Walsh situation wasn't handled well at all. I don't think it was, and I know Billy is so good. He is a really, really good coach, and probably at that time losing him wasn't a good idea. The other three coaches are very, very good as well, but because of the circumstances of the whole thing, it kind of made them look a bit inept. You know what I mean? When they were out there, and then of course, it is a boxing team, but everybody has their own personal preparation to do as well, and the personal preparations for people on the way out, like, I mean, but Michael O'Reilly's the failed drug test. Some people were saying Paddy Barnes was struggling with the weight. Some guys weren't actually in and training on time or whatever. These little small things, you don't know what's going on for people as individuals in the lead up to this. And I suppose what Billy would do normally would be to kind of get everybody together and try and check in with everybody and see how they are. And yeah, so it's kind of, it's a pity that it went that way.
It's a combination of things, really, isn't it?
It is, I think so, and I think they were done for going before they even went over there. No matter how they performed, you look at the fights themselves. Michael obviously won the fight. I thought Katie should have got the decision. Joe Ward was very harshly done by, I thought, in terms of the public warnings and the points deducted. And it probably all goes back to like Michael Gallagher, speaking out, and it's I don't know, it's a symptom. I guess it's a symptom of society, how we treat whistleblowers. But he was speaking out, and it hurt the boxers. And by us being here talking today, who knows who's going to hear it? And what effect? It's not Michael Gallagher, who the referee.
Michael Gallagher was one of the Magnificent Seven.
Oh yes, that's right. But like, it doesn't. Doesn't bode well for anybody who speaks out, it seems, across society. And as I said, by even us speaking here today, that might have a knock-on effect. But hopefully, I don't know where these are they're a law unto themselves, and what repercussions it has by speaking out, or what can be done about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But are you doing service by? Are you not playing the game? Should we just be towing the line and playing the game? And I don't know. I don't know.
So
I was trying to upset it
since
and combat it. Are we hurting the boxers themselves?
I don't know. I mean, you guys must have thought about going pro earlier. I suppose you at least had an Olympic Games, but like, Eric, why didn't you just go pro after the 2004 Olympics? Was there a decision to be made at that time, do you think, for you in retrospect?
I genuinely thought I could go to the Olympic Games. And that's what I was chasing. But there was a lot of scaremongering going on as well in the amateur setup about professional boxing. Don't go there, there's sharks, they'll eat you up and all that type of stuff, So you'd kind of...
And then you look around and say, well, what am I getting here, when you get to those decisions in the continent, and then even the decisions in national stadiums, sometimes you're thinking, well, it's not much better here in terms of the quality. Yeah, and the fairness.
Yeah. Well, you said you were talking to a referee at the weekend who...
Yeah, I won't mention any names, but I was at a boxing show at the weekend, and I knew I was coming in here, and I just said, have you ever been approached, this would be a pretty well-known judge? And he said, yeah, it happens all the time. He says, when you go to those competitions, they'll offer you a holiday for you and your wife, or, a little envelope, but he said he's never took them, and...
But it's there, and it's like the constant, no, I'm all right, no, leave me alone. It's like, stop, and you have to assume that not everybody is turning down the holiday.
I know, yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it's me, like, see, in Ireland we're so, not honest, but if a boxer does well, or any sports person does well, it's a great achievement for them and they honour their country. But, you know, the prestige for other countries, the likes of the Eastern European countries, it's the prestige of it, the elevation to have an Olympian, it holds a lot more weight. You know, these guys can be like, a lot of them are like police officers, like the Russian boxers, or Eastern Europe, they'd be like police officer or in the army, and to say this is our representative, he's a army captain and he's an Olympic bronze medalist or gold medalist or silver medalist, and they kind of show these people off as shining examples for everybody, and it's kind of a national kind of pride thing, you know. Whereas with us here in Ireland, we do take national pride, of course we do, but it's very much done in the right way, you know, and it's not, and so I don't know, you know.
We're not chasing medals for the sake of national glory.
Yeah, and what that does, like it opens the door for these bribes and corruption, that these people are desperate to get their boxers in these positions.
Yeah, and I think in terms of as well creating an influx of boxing and in their countries as well to keep the sport alive. Look, this is this is what you can achieve when you reach the pinnacle of your sport. You know what I mean? To keep boxing, keep the conveyor belt of boxing coming through and the talent of boxers coming through. But it reminds me of the film The Godfather. You know, everybody has a price. You know what I mean? It's like when you hear things like that, it's really stark. It's sobering, really.
Well, so and the other thing is that, and this is covered a little bit next week, but not too much because you have to be careful enough about what you say. But the International Amateur Boxing Association basically took a massive loan from China and are largely in hock to the Chinese for like the next 20 years for that massive loan. But in the meantime as well, Dr. Wu, who was the president, who used to come in on a gold chair, apparently he'd be like ferried into the meetings with like a bunch of human beings holding him up on his gold chair at ceremonies. He's been replaced by a guy who's on the FBI's most wanted list as an international drug trafficker. Oh, no. Like, and that's now the person who's in charge of all of amateur boxing in the world.
Serious danger of boxing not being at the next Olympics. And you can't argue against it. It'll be horrendous. It'll be an awful shame for the boxers across the world who do things in the right way. But when you see this going on in governance at the head of the sport, how can you argue against it? Like it's insane, you know.
Yeah. When you think it's the organisation that is entrusted to lead this sport, develop this sport, and nurture it and make it a great sport, but you know they've only themselves to blame. I think. When Dr. Wu, when we, because like, you know, this is going back, we heard about Daganelli and these other guys, but when Dr. Wu was appointed, you know, the general consensus was this guy is going to clean up this sport. He's done more damage.
And that was his ticket to getting elected for it as well. Eric, before we go, when's your next fight? What's your plans? How are you getting on?
I have a consultation in Santry soon, with my hand. It looks likely that I might need surgery, reconstructive ligament here on my index finger. But I can't fully say that's a definite. I'm still waiting on the consultation, but it does look likely, which would mean my June fight will have to be put back, and then September will be the next one. Yeah, so back out in September, please God.
All right. Well, I was going to say fingers crossed, but that's a bad pun. I hope the consultation goes well, and if you do need surgery, best of luck with that, and we'll talk to you plenty in between now and September. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
It's Eric Donovan there with some good stuff around the importance is all right, because he obviously ends up as one of the scapegoats in the whole Olympic Games. Like, he couldn't handle the pressure, and he probably couldn't handle some of the pressure, but that doesn't diminish his role in making Irish amateur boxing, athletic boxing, the world leader that it was.
Well, you get the opinion of the boxers who work with him, who know how good he is. Like, and everyone, I don't think that you'll find one boxer who has a bad word for Zoe. Anyone who's worked with him, you speak to Michael Conn, Paddy Barnes, Ken Deegan, myself and Eric, like any of the high-profile boxers who work with him, they improve by being around him and by being trained by him. So he's definitely an asset, but managing the asset and how the role he plays and the responsibility he has to take on And when you look back, him and Billy were the perfect combination, because Billy being, I guess being more in tune with the Irish psyche, and knowing boxers and knowing when, like, Billy's very cute and has been around the block himself, was a fighter himself, and knows when someone's taking a break or cutting corners up outside of the gym, what they do, and when they're away from the team, he can see it. He's very perceptive. So they were the perfect mix, Billy and Zor. But like, that role can be filled again. I'm sure Bernard Dunn is doing. Like, I went to see Bernard early when he took over as a high performance director, and I was very impressed with what he was saying. Very similar to the lines of what Gary Keegan had started, but had his own spin on things. And I was very, like, I thought I wasn't concerned when Bernard Dunn took over. I just wasn't sure how he would handle it, because I'd never seen him in that kind of a role before, working with a team. But after leaving there, I thought it's in the right hands now. I think Bernard's going to do a great job. And
well, hopefully he's given the freedom to do it, and the backing. Like, the problem is really the administration of the sport. And that's a whole another hour's worth of documentary.
Kind of worms. Yeah.